one of my last 8-rack movies for a while. Mostly because, I don't know, I gotta take a break from the deck for a little bit. I've been testing it out a lot, and I think this is a pretty streamlined list. Nothing's changed. I mean, the sideboard can still change up a little bit, but overall I think the deck is pretty streamlined. I mean, we've got 8 Radic effects, so we're generally going to see one every time. We have also 8 Liliana effects in this deck. 4 Lilies, 2 Necrogenic Mists, and 2 Rix Maddies. So we got 8 Lily effects to keep going for that, the Rack and Shrieking Affliction. And we have a bunch of Ensnaring Bridge. We've got 6 Ensnaring Bridge effects now. Plus in the sideboard we've got Pyroclasm, so we can say we almost have more bridge effects. And again, it's a little sad, but we do rely on bridge a little bit. And the red deck wins matchup is hard. I will admit that it's hard. It's not unbeatable, but it's hard. And I'm going to show a couple matches today. Today's going to be a sort of like all-you-can-eat smorgasbord of 8-rack day. After this, I'm probably going to do some zoo. We're probably going to do some zoo videos for my zoo sub against different matchups, Gruul Zoo and whatnot. Also, my girlfriend has basically told me of a really great idea that I should be doing. It's called Drunk Magic. So if you guys are interested, come watch some Drunk Magic with me, where I'll be taking bad decks and playing it to the best of my ability while heavily intoxicated. Alright, so this first matchup, guy rage quitted on me eventually, which sort of was a little upsetting. Because I actually did want to see what games 2 and 3 would look like. Sometimes the rage quit actually stops you from getting various testings in, which sucks. But I keep this hand because it's got a Lily and it's got an Ensnaring Bridge, so at least it's got 1 discard. I don't know that he's Death and Taxes, but that's kind of cool that we're up against Death and Taxes. I've never been up against Death and Taxes before, so I wanted to point this one out. Now, when I saw that he was going for like a Plains, I automatically thought he was a life gain deck, which I've beaten before. But he puts out the Ether Vial, and he's either some weird life gain deck or he's Death and Taxes. So I'm going to go ahead and Raven's Crime. There's nothing else to do here. By him putting out the Ether Vial, I may have an extra turn. I mean, Ether Vial is a double-edged sword. It might speed the game out, but it's going to also delay your second and third turn-ish by a turn and a half. So he's trying to think about what card he should be discarding right now. If I were him, I'd just take the Path to Exile, and he did take the Path to Exile. Generally, if you see a Raven's Crime, you gotta start to think that the deck is going to be less creature reliance on, because Raven's Crime says I use instants and also says I use lands. It never really says I use creatures. Because if you're using creatures, like Thoughtseize and whatnot are a better option. Now, he does have the Serra Ascendant that costs little amounts of mana, but he couldn't play it because it was not his third or fourth turn of the game, or actually fourth turn. He needs to play it on fourth, which let me put my Lava Claw Reaches, which is a come into play tapped land, into play. I recently had Lava Claw Reaches swinging for about 5 before during a stall with a control matchup, so I don't mind that it comes into play tapped. It does give me the option to block occasionally, but more often than not, swing for a little bit of damage. So, anyways, I'm at 3 mana now. I have a couple options. I can either put Ensnaring Bridge out, I can put Liliana out and let it get attacked to death, or Necrogenic Mists. I put Lily out because he's got an empty board. Now, remember that Ether Vial can toss things out there, so that was actually probably a wrong decision on my part. But I wasn't expecting the Serra Ascendant. I did want to knock his hand down a little bit. I should have probably put out Necrogenic Mist, and the next turn put out the Ensnaring Bridge, and then next turn put out the Lily. That was probably the more correct play on my part, but I made a mistake. Don't put your Lily out there unless you can defend it, especially against decks that can just explode like this. Now you see he put out the Avenger, tosses the Paladin on it now. He's going to attach it with this sort of Feast and Famine, which is gross. And he's going to kill my Lily. And here you're about to see, I actually just realized I made a mistake. It didn't affect the game at all. But he attacked my Lily, and then I discarded. That was a mistake on my part. It's like 7 in the morning when I did this, so I made that mistake. He didn't hit me, he hit my Planeswalker. I should clarify that. It doesn't really make a difference because I'm discarding extra useless lands. But whatever, man. Because otherwise, I'd be like, well, my Lily's still alive, and that sucks for you. But him actually it may have actually helped me by discarding. Technically, I still put out the Ensnaring Bridge next turn and still stop him from swinging again, which is what's important. But he's down to 1 card in hand, and that's important. An important distinction. Now I'm holding the Rise Fall because I don't really care, and I am about 90% sure that that's a land. Otherwise, he probably would have played it with his untapped stuff. So I'm like, I can let it swing through. Here he's got a Silver Blade. He draws a Sword of Fire and Ice, which would be awful for me if I didn't have the bridge. So he puts out that, and he's gonna swing. Now I'm gonna be taking some damage from this for a while. I understand that, but it's not like I'm taking damage from that, and that's the big thing. Like, I will be taking 4 damage a turn for a little bit, and that's okay because my life points are only there until I establish a lock, in which case, if you don't have burn, you've lost the game. So I'm putting out Necrogenic Mists here, because I want him to discard on his upkeep. Whatever that card is, it's probably a land, it's discarded. And Rise and Fall would fail here, and Inquisition would fail here. So he draws another land, and I think he takes a second before realizing, like, if he keeps it in his hand, it's still gone. So there's no reason not to. He's going to attach the Sword of Fire and Ice. He's got nothing else to do with his mana. Maybe some universe I'll sacrifice this through smokestacks or something. So that's the only thing he can do, which is fine. Swords on Sarah Avenger with flying and double strike is nasty, man. 7/7, beat your face for 14. Then another 4 on top of that. Whatever. It's my upkeep. I'm deciding which one to toss. Rise or Fall or Inquisition. And I decided to toss Inquisition because if I have Rise or Fall, you know, I can at least use Rise or Fall on myself. But then I have the rack. I draw the rack, so I toss the rack out there. Now we've got a finisher. That's what we were waiting for. The bridge was going to hold it off for a while. So he draws himself a Sarah Avenger. I don't know. He doesn't play it here. I think he's trying to hold it because of the rack, but then forgets that I can stack the Necrogen Mists. Again, that's what you gotta do. You gotta say that rack trigger, Necrogen trigger. Necrogen trigger's on the stack there on top. Takes out your card. Rack checks to see how many cards you have. So I end up Raven's criming, I think myself. Yeah, I Raven crime myself. Because, I don't know. Ain't no reason to do it. Hold on a second, my dog. So there we go. Just stuff happening. And it's going to be a long game. I mean, it takes a while for these guys to usually realize that the game is over. I don't know, maybe he had some form of... I guess he could have had a flicker wisp or something. Could have flickered mind snaring bridge and then gotten me killed. But once you put the rack double duty on, he's got a draw. And that was it, you know, and then he's like, nope, peace. I don't know why he says game 2 and then decides he doesn't want the game 2. But anyway, so that's the Death and Taxes. Death and Taxes has creatures that are sort of Haiti and then can explode. So Bridge is preferred here, although you could probably have wiped most of the board with Pyro. It's not enough, especially when they're making Pyro cost 3 and things. Let's go over to this matchup. This is a Red Deck Wins matchup, and I highlighted this one because out of these two games, I'm going to give you a spoiler. Out of these 3 games, I lose. I didn't win. Legalized Sanctity would have helped, but you know, it wasn't like I ever felt like I was on the bottom of the games. And I think what I've discovered through these 2 games is what you need to beat Red Deck Wins. Red Deck Wins is a race, man. It's not even... Because the top decks will kill you eventually. It's a race. So, to even have a chance of winning, you need to have at least 2 rack pieces out early enough that it starts taking away more than they can top deck burn you for. So I'm just going to fast forward here because it's not a match that's really necessary to see. I don't use Thoughtseize for a while because he's got nothing in hand that's worth me Thoughtseizing. Grim Lavamancer is a horrible card in this matchup for us because it'll keep burning us regardless of a bridge or not. So I ends up you know, like getting this guy down. I've got Shrieking Affliction out. I got the Lily to kill things, but his top decks are just better than what I can do. And he keeps going for the damage. He ignores the Lily because he says, whatever, I can still outburn you. And I even Thoughtseize myself here, so that way I can stop his Goblin Guide from attacking me early on. And if he has any other top deck Goblin Guides, it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't affect me. But maybe I just draw like crap here. I don't ever get another rack piece, which is what I need. And again, I'm down to 4. He's got Bolt in hands. Draws a blank. I Raven's Crime his blank away. So it's down to the neck. But see how the end of the game, it was 2-1. 2 life to 1. So he top decks what he needs to. The game was close, but it's a race. Again, it's just a race. You try to whittle away this gas as quickly as possible, and then hope that you get enough rack pieces to outrace him. This game I'm not going to fast forward through, because it's one that I win. Now, I do a couple interesting things here that I think is cool. Rack is in my hand. I've got a couple Inquisitions for the early thing, and I sided in Surgical Extractions over Thoughtseize because Thoughtseize is a mandatory 2 damage lost, but Surgical Extraction is an optional one. So I ended up going for that and doing some math in my head. Because what I do here is he lets me draw an extra couple because of Goblin Guide. But he gives me a mana, and I take the mana and I Inquisition. Now when I Inquisition, I see that he's got 2 Keldon Marauders and not much else. And Keldon Marauder will hit me because I don't have any sort of way to stop it. It will hit me for about 5 before it finally goes away. So to save my butt and to make him discard twice and deny him a turn 2 play, I Surgical Extraction. And I do take damage for it. I Surgical Extraction and I extract the Marauders. So what that'll do is that'll zap out the other one and make him discard. I've lost 2 life, but essentially I saved myself 3 life by not letting him play Keldon Marauders next turn. So he's doing his mumbo jumbo right now. And again, so it helps that I've like already burn down his hand to basically a bolt. I'm trying to make him go to a crawl, which is what you have to do against red deck wins. You have to take away any juice they have, any amount of explosion they have. Try to get their gas gone, and then after that, that's when you try to start taking them down. Now he did some interesting side options here. He has Beat Brow, which is actually kind of good against us because we always have to take the 5 damage. And Blood Moon, because he saw that I had non-basics. But again, that wouldn't really affect me. I have 1 swamp in my deck. I can basically cast anything that's in my hand. So he draws a blank. These guys do that, man. They only really need a couple mana, and then anything after that is pretty bad for them. But I end up seeing the Ensnaring Bridge off the top, which is very cool. I like seeing Ensnaring Bridge in this matchup, even if it's only for a couple cards. So what's going to end up happening here is I know he's got the Bolt in hand. I know if he drew a blank and I use Inquisition, he's going to bolt me. But it's basically me paying 1 mana and losing 3 life to make him discard, which I need to do with the rack. So I have to start getting these race triggers on him. He's going to bolt me regardless. I'd rather spend the mana and make him discard the bolt rather than hold on to it. So that way I can get a ping damage at least. So top deck's a Goblin Guide, which is fantastic for him. He's swinging for 2 repeatable shocks. I see a Lily, so I'm going to have to take this damage, and that sucks. But watch my hand magically disappear. So I know he has 2 lands in hand, which means this Rise Fall is completely useless in hand. I'm going to play my land. And I give him a challenge here. I say, let me live an extra turn, and I'm going to discard your card, so that way I can put Ensnaring Bridge out and keep that down. Oh, I don't. I end up just killing his card. And I think I did that because I needed, because if he's a smart player and just swung for my face, then I would, if he drew a bolt, I was dead. So I had to limit his damage output. Ensnaring Bridge, again, not what I want to see. But there's the card. Here's me playing Ensnaring Bridge. And then me discarding a card. So he draws a blank here. Hits me for 2. He forgot his -3 trigger, so he's going to lose some life here. I go down to 3, so now I'm in bolt range. And he chooses not to. He chooses to hit my Lily instead, which is fine, I guess. So my Lily dies. I have Rise Fall here, and I choose to Rise Fall myself, so that way I can get rid of my extra Rise Fall. We're gonna speed it up here a little bit. So I make myself discard my Rise Fall because I figure the rack will do what it needs to do. Oh, and never mind. This is game 3 where he beat Browse me and I lose. Ignore. So that was actually game 3. I'm sorry. And I lose because of Beat Brow. There's no way I could survive that Beat Brow. Where's game 2? Is it? All right, game 2. Let's have a flashback here. He draws a handful of goodness, except the fact that it's only 1. I draw a handful of goodness. He can survive on 1 mana. That's probably actually better for him, although he can't explode out the gates. But I'm gonna go ahead and Raven's Crime him. And he discards the Magma Jet because it's the most costly, really, is what it is, and it doesn't do enough damage. So he's got the Vexing Devils, and the Vexing Devils are a problem because other than Liliana, I can't really deal with them. I mean, a bridge deals with them, but again, as Memory Lapse has said, if you see a Vexing Devil and you've got no way to deal with it within 1 turn, it's worth killing. So there's the 4 damage. I have lands, and I'm gonna go ahead and Raven's Crime. So let's see what he discards here. He's tanking for a while, but I think he discards another Magma Jet. He discards a Skullcrack. He wants to keep his Magma Jet just so that he doesn't have bad top decks. And then I go ahead and put the Rack out. Now bear in mind, I've got Shrieking Afflictions in my sides, or over here, which means that if he does end up exploding out the gate, which he's trying to, I will be able to Shrieking Affliction up the butt. I gotta take the damage for the Vexing Devil. It doesn't make me feel good that I just took 8 damage from 2 Vexing Devils, but whatever. I have to. I draw another Rack, so this is good for me. I put the Rack out because it's going to deal damage right away. And I'm on race time. It's race mode. But my bolts don't get any worse while his do. He's limited to a bolt a turn. So he browbeats here, and I can't let him draw. I can't let him draw or else I can't race him. So I have to take the 5. Which blows, but that's what I had to do. So I draw a Drakmar Salvage. I don't have the red this game for Rise Fall, but I discard the Drakmar for the Raven's Crime, which means now I've got him permanently, if you guys see this beautiful lock, I've got him permanently on 0 cards in hand, and that's exactly where he needs to be. So we're putting the Shrieking Affliction, and that'll hit him for 12 now. So suddenly he's going from 18 to like nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like you gotta race these guys. Yours are repeatable big damages. Theirs are not. He drew a mountain and he lost the game. So I mean like four of these is a little much, but 2 is doable. 2 is what you really need to win the red deck wins matchup. Anyways, let's bring one last game of 3, because it's also against another red deck. Something I believe is a little bit more explosive than your average red deck wins, and that's going to be Goblins. In game 1, he's too fast for me, is really the issue. And Goblins, again, like they're a little less stable than red deck wins, but they pack a punch, man. They pack a wallop right away. They're all out of the gate speed. And I've been rolling 2s all day today. I don't know why. I just suck. So I rolled 2s. He's got a pretty good mana curve here. Loyal Legionists into Krinko into Ram Gang. And I might be able to screw that tempo up a little bit, but Thoughtseize is not the card you want to see here. Necrogen Mists. My hand's getting heavy with these three. Liliana and Necrogen. And I need like a way to get my hand down to 0 quickly enough, and still rock a bridge in order to win this matchup, or make him just have nothing in hand. Either or, I don't think I've got enough to do that, especially when, unlike the red deck wins matchup, where his bolts are stronger, but at the same time weaker, quote unquote. These little dudes, little angry red dudes, are repeatable. I live in such a ghetto neighborhood. You'll see, just 1 rack damage ain't really that much. He's gonna draw a Loyal Legionist. This guy can explode out the gates hardcore. Nothing I can do. I got in a little argument with him about the way that Necrogen missed stacks. I know it's not something that everyone knows, but he ends up like it's just a spat, and I just can't deal with it. I'm not drawing any bridges. I can't get rid of my hand fast enough. I put a Necrogen Mist out. He discards his mountain, then explodes, and then I tell him like you have to do the damage, and he just explodes. And so what else can I say? It was insane. I mean, those guys can turn 3. Turn 3 is the dangerous turn for them. Turn 3, turn 4, because they explode out the gate and do like something ridiculous, like 16 damage to you. Next game's a lot longer, which means that it was in my favor. This deck ends up, as long as you've got a rack piece and a lock piece, the longer the game usually goes, the better it is for you, with a very rare exceptions. But I've got a pretty good hand here. I've got 3 Inquisitions, so I can rip his hand to shreds. I'm going to take away, I was considering taking away Goblin Chieftain or Goblin War Marshal here, but I ended up taking the Bushwhacker, because I would rather take away his turn 1 play. And if he's a smart guy, which I don't think he is, but if he was a smart guy, against a discard deck, you want to play your creatures out as fast as possible. So maybe I'm outthinking myself here, but I dig the Bushwhacker, because Bushwhacker's also explosive damage later on that it represents. So I'd rather him lose that now. Plus, I've got 2 other. If I didn't have two other Inquisitions, I might be a little more scared. But I'd rather take away his turn 1 play right away. I draw the rack, which is good, and I end up Rise Fall him. Now I know he doesn't have many lands in hand. I know he's only got 1, so it's a 1 out of 6 chance that I'm gonna hit that land. So I'm feeling pretty good with the Rise Fall. For some reason, people think that when I cast Rise Fall, I'm casting Rise, when I clearly don't have the mana for it, and I also clearly said Fall. And I have to explain to him that it's Fall, not Rise. Just read the card, dude. So we hit the Bogart Ram, which is what I wanted. The other one that I wanted to hit would be War Marshal, but if I don't hit that, that's fine. I hit Goblin Chieftain, I'm feeling okay about that too. These guys sort of rely a little bit on their lords to really get them through and explode some damage. So he puts out the Goblin War Marshal. Probably not going to pay the Echo next turn. But I got 2 Inquisitions, so I'm feeling fine about what I'm doing here. He's tapped out. He can't even use the Bolt. I'm going to Inquisition away his Bolt and his Chieftain and leave him no plays next turn. He'll have a Mountain in case he wants to get another Chieftain in from drawing, but I got the land for the rack too. It's no good for him, man. He's taking 2 damage. We're just gonna feel pretty on the fact that he's gonna be taking 2 damage next turn. And he decides not to pay for the War Marshal, and forgets the upkeep trigger. A lot of people forget the upkeep trigger. So I take the damage. It's just 3. I need to add up, but it reveals a Pyroclasm off the top of my deck. And let me tell you something. Revealing a Pyroclasm after getting hit by a Goblin Guide is not all that bad. And I'm just going to Pyroclasm right here. Because I would rather take out his army to nothing with nothing in hand than give him a chance to do like a Goblin Bushwhacker or something. And he has a Smash to Smithereens, so he must have sided that in against me. And he kills my rack. Which is good. Cool, that's fine. I guess he hits 4 of my bridges, which is the worst with Smash, but he hits my rack, which is okay. If he hit my bridge, I would be a little more upset. But I draw blank. He draws blank because Searing Blaze, unless he hits himself, can't target me now. I get Ensnaring Bridge, but I don't know if the whole card he's holding in his hand is what do you call it? Is a Smash to Smithereens, and I'd rather not just chase it out there with no way to know. So I keep it in my hand. Then I get a Lily. I'm like, all right, well, Lily's gonna go out there. Think about it for a second if I want to do Ensnaring Bridge. And then I decide to go Ensnaring Bridge because I don't want to discard Snaring Bridge to Lily. Simple put. If he's got the Smash, he's got the Smash, and that's fine. I have a way to kill his guy in the meantime. Now he's up to 3 cards in hand. It's not somewhere I want to see, but I've got a Lily, and then I draw an extra Lily. So regardless, if he ends up smashing Lily's face, I'm still okay. I'm still in survival mode, and I'm making him discard stuff. He's going to discard the Searing Blaze because he's got nothing else to do with it. Draws a land, which he needs to for Krenko Mob Boss. Now, I don't know what he has in hand. I still think he might have some kind of, he might have drawn like a Smash Smithereens or Shattering Spree or something. So I opt to make him discard instead of killing the Krenko. Because I figure Krenko is being held back by my Ensnaring Bridge. Any creatures he makes is being held back by my Ensnaring Bridge. Goblin Guy could pop my Lily in the face. Or Goblin Grenade could pop my Lily in the face, but I make him discard it, which I'm sure he doesn't want. He'd rather just make Krenko go away. Draws a useless land, taps to make himself a token, puts his land into play, which I don't like. I don't think that's a smart decision. I don't know why you're putting your land into play. You probably should just keep it in your hand. You don't really need any more mana than this. Lily might make you discard it, sure. But I draw a Pyroclasm here, and I decide, after seeing that Goblin Grenade, I don't want to see any more Goblin Grenades. So I'm going to kill his Goblin here, and then I'm also going to go down to negative because he's got no cards in hand, and kill his Krenko. I don't want any chance that he could draw a Goblin Grenade and make it live, especially because I want to keep my Lily. And he's going to go ahead and Mog War Marshal here. Whether he pays the upkeep is up to him. He probably should pay the upkeep. I draw a Lily, so it doesn't really matter. I don't feel the need to make him discard. I say at this point I can ultimate. We're not on M14 rules. If we were on M14 rules, I would have used my Lily to kill one of his creatures and then played my Lily. So he's gonna Goblin Grenade here. He can kill my Lily. I guess he just does not really have many outs to Ensnaring Bridge, so he's going for my face and hoping that he'll draw the burn to kill me. At this point, I draw a Rix Maddie. So even without Lily at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep making him discard. But I'm going to tuck Lily up anyways because I've got no reason not to. I draw an Inquisition. Go ahead and tuck Lily up. Again, normally I would play the Inquisition, but I want to make sure that, I mean, if he has some weird bounce thing, it's usually safer to just go with the Lily while you're having an extra card in hand, so that way he can't bounce Lily into your hand. And Goblins got that Stink Scourger or something. I draw a Lily here, which is funny. So I ultimate with Lily. And I'm going to say, basically, you can keep 4 of your lands, or you can keep 2 of your lands and 2 Goblin dudes. Like, just bring him back to the Stone Age, because I've got nothing better to do. And I've got a Lily in hand, so I can put another one out for loyalty anyways. So that ends up happening. And he loses himself his lands. Ends up with 2, which is fine. I mean, like, he doesn't really need any more than 2 anyways. I play a Lily and bring it up to 4. I still don't have a rack piece or anything. I need the finisher. I've got 3 parts of this lock. 2 parts of this lock. You got a Goblin Arsonist just in case that he needs to sacrifice, and I give him a chance to sacrifice and give him a clause. And then we get a Shrinking Affliction out. So now the game is locked and under key. He's not going to draw anything worth things. He's going to draw a bunch of Goblins, and they're not going to do anything. And I'm just going to keep discarding. And then eventually I get another lock piece, like the rack, and it's over. So we switch to the last game, which does not last long at all. It's just a quick rage quit. So the guy, let me pause it here. He ends up with a mountain, a bunch of smashes, and 2 Goblin Arsonists. Against me, I would have kept this hand. He can always draw more things, but I will probably strip away the smashes and the Goblin Chieftain. But you end up with 2 1/1s that if I kill them with Lily, still hurt me. And you can take a hand with more gas, less land against me. That's fine. I draw no lands whatsoever. This is not a keeper. It would be a keeper if I had 2 lands, but it's not. And he does his thing, finds 2 tapped lands that are teetering peaks. Goblin Bushwhacker, which isn't really a 1-drop, it's a 2-drop. And a Goblin Arsonist. But he can't curve correctly because of this. Again, he's mulling here, and I don't know why. Mulling is really, really bad to do against this deck. So I mull, and I mull into a hand that has a Pyroclasm, but no way to cast it. But I figure, I may draw a way to cast it, and if I do, it's going to screw his day. I have a rack piece here, and I have 2 different ways to make him discard in the meantime with my mana. That's a fine hand. So he goes down to 4, and he's got Smashes Smithereens and nothing to do, really, until turn 3. And that's screwed over for him. And I say keep, because I'm like, alright, fine, if you're going to be at that. And he says Epic, and then puts a mountain into play, and then I untap. I draw the Shrieking Affliction, I put a mountain out. And I say Inquisition, so I'm going to steal his only thing. I'm going to take Ram. I'm going to say Ram, because the only real threat he has. I can kill this later. And he puts it in his graveyard, and then I end my turn. He draws, untaps, draws himself a mountain, still has nothing to do, ends the turn, switches it over to me. I draw. I have 3 mana. Put a swamp into play. I do Raven's Crime. Now I know he has a smash in his hand because of my checksy outsies, and he discards a mountain, and I put the Shrieking Affliction out instead because I can get the smash Smithereens eventually. Draws himself a Goblin Arsonist, plays it, he's got a 1/1. I passes over the turn, I draw. It's an Inquisition, just what I wanted to see. Gonna take out that smash. I don't care if he hits me for 6 with the Goblin Grenade and stuff. And he quits the game. That's it for him, he's quitting. Because I could have possibly put out, the rack after that. Could have put the rack out after that, have 3 mana. I still got Pyroclasm if I need to eventually. game's going slow enough that it does not matter. He'll start taking damage. Because he'll go down to 1 card in hand. He'll be taking 5 a turn for a little while. And that's that, you know? Anywho, so that's 8 rack against Riddick Wins, Goblins, and a little bit of Death and Taxes. Again, I'll be doing some zoo matches later, and Drunk Magic, because Drunk Magic is fun.